ISO FileMaker Magazine, the professional's resource for FileMaker know-how. Hey there, this is Matt Petrowski for ISO FileMaker Magazine. You can always find more information about FileMaker at FileMakerMagazine.com. In this video tutorial, this is not more of a tutorial, this is just an ad hoc me discovering and going through the things that are in FileMaker 2024, plus all kinds of stuff. If you are interested in learning about how I learn about new versions as they come out, well, I've got a lot of stuff in this video for you. All right, hey there, this is Matt Petrowski. This is going to be an ad hoc video, meaning I do not have a planned script. FileMaker, Claris, I should say, just released a new version. They're calling it FileMaker 2024, and when we take a look at it, I'll select the icon, and we'll just choose this here in the Finder. We will zoom in. We can see that this is now version 21. So if you're using a FileMaker 2023, that's going to be version 20. Now you're going to see the other version that I'm using, the version just prior to this. This being an ad hoc video, the reason I want to go through this is I'm going to show you how I discover things in FileMaker that are new from version to version if I wasn't in the external testing. Now, I am in the external testing for FileMaker. I've been working with FileMaker for many, many years, almost 30 or 30 more, I forget. But anyway, you're not interested in that. What you're interested in is how do I go about this? Well, the first thing that I do is, you can see I've got there is no copy of FileMaker open right now. And there's also a very interesting thing that I'm going to show you that's of benefit. You're always going to learn something new about FileMaker in my videos. In fact, you can always go to the magazine website, FileMakerMagazine.com. Tons of videos about learning everything about FileMaker. Well, number one, this thing that it's showing you right here, this drag to the application folder, at least on the Mac, don't do this. Don't drag this in here if you are a FileMaker developer, and I will show you why. Let's create a new Finder window, and I am going to, whatever I'm revealing there, which is basically just a bunch of my, garbage stuff. We are going to go to this location right here, which you can see. I'll actually type that out so that you can see it on screen. So, library caches. If you don't already know this about FileMaker, when we get into this, one of the things you can do, at least, and this works on Windows as well, by the way, you're just wanting to show a window and you're wanting to sort by a date modified in reverse order. And what you're going to see is you're going to see as things are created. This is what you need to know as a developer. This is where you find out that particular parse CD, just something happened. And so these things just pop up, and it's a great way to learn about how things are going on behind the scenes. So in this folder called caches, FileMaker has its own folder, which we can see right here as I expand this. Now these are the on-disk cache as opposed to a memory cache. This is what makes FileMaker faster. You can see that we've got these little numbers. It's in a folder called DB cache. What's interesting in FileMaker is that if FileMaker is in a copy of its own folder within the applications folder, or as I'm going to show you, a different application folder, then you're able to control this on disk cache. So here, this is a folder that's created every time. It's not created every time. It's created and then it retains the cache so that when a FileMaker file loads, it can load faster because it's got things in the cache such as layouts, fields, some schema, and all it has to do is check with server, do I need to update the cache? Well, we can get rid of this. I can just delete this at any time. Also, FileMaker or Claris implemented the ability to delete that version-specific database cache in the preferences, which we will see. It's not new in this new version of FileMaker, but it is something that you can do. So I'm going to keep that window open right there so that we can see what happens. I'll just hide the sidebar so that we can keep things all nice and clean. We'll leave the date modified right there, and we'll be able to watch what happens when we open copies of FileMaker. Now, like I said, I don't copy my copy of FileMaker into the applications folder. In fact, if I double click this, it's going to take me to the general applications folder. Now, it used to be that FileMaker used to make a dedicated folder that contained a particular version. Now, here on this version of the operating system on the Macintosh, FileMaker 18, this will not open. It just says it's damaged. It's not actually damaged. I could throw this into a VM and actually get this to work if I needed to. But as we scroll down, we can see that there is the FileMaker Pro app. Now, I am still doing development in copies of FileMaker 19.6.3302. So that's the version that I have been mostly using doing a lot of my development work, but I also want to be able to work with newer versions at the same time. So what we're going to do, as I click on this, we can see that what happens is I have, this is the general applications folder, but there is also an applications folder that you can go to in your home directory. So if I put in the tilde here and type in applications, we can see that it's going to take me to my user applications folder. And this is where you can see that I've got the current version of FileMaker prior to the one that that Claris just released, which this is the 2023 FileMaker and this is the 2024. Now you can name these folders whatever you want to name, but because they are in a folder, or I should say because FileMaker is in a folder, it creates a dedicated on-disk cache. If these were not, obviously this and this would not be able to be in the same folder because they are the exact same name. So this is one of the ways that you can run multiple versions, whether you're testing, whether you're wanting versions before and you want to compare them. This is what we're going to do, is we are going to compare these two versions, and I'm going to show you how. One way is I'm going to literally open the application, but before I do that, I like to use another application to actually look at the inside guts of the application itself just to see what's new, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. All right, so one of the tools that I use is an app called Kaleidoscope, and another app that I use is called LaunchBar. Now, there's all kinds of launchers. I've used Quicksilver in the past, another app called Alfred. There's one called Raycast, which is popular with a lot of other FileMaker developers. As I type right now and I start to type in FileMaker, you can see that this launcher, which we're going to see in the new version of FileMaker, actually has a... they have a feature that I think some developers really get used to, some don't. Those that use these quick launch type of tools, FileMaker has a feature called Open Quickly, and the new version of FileMaker, the 2024 version, now references more than it used to, and we'll take a look at the differences between those. But here, one of the nice things that you can see about putting a dedicated folder is you can actually see what version you're opening. Now, there are some developers that go to the length of actually changing the icon within the bundle of the application just in order to know what the difference is. Well, for me, a folder with the name within the user applications folder just tells me enough. I just select the version that I actually want to open. And as an advanced developer, if you don't already know this, from the command line, you can actually use a binary called open, and you can actually open multiple instances of the exact same copy of FileMaker, and that's useful for testing. If you're testing privilege sets and you want to do multiple at the same time, it's very difficult on screen to keep track of things, so multiple monitors works good. I've got one over here and one over here, and so I can put different copies of the same solution, keep them separate, and go from monitor to monitor. But here we see that we're able to select both of these. Now, the tool that I like to use to compare the underneath core is just a diffing tool. And on the Macintosh, we've got one called Kaleidoscope, which I like to use. Now, this is an older version of what it currently has, but here what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this copy and this copy. First, I'm going to do this one. Now, you should know that on the Macintosh and on pretty much any other application or any other platform, Linux is pretty much, you always see a complete list of files. Windows, you can see it's the binary points to typically a folder, or all of those files are in the same folder. On the Macintosh, all it does is it makes things pretty by simply just putting an icon and wrapping it into a bundle, but this is literally what we're looking at. What we are staring at highlighted on screen is a folder, if you didn't know this. And there's this option right here when you right-click called Show Package. Now, all they did is they just renamed it from folder to package. They call it a package. Sometimes it's called a bundle, what have you. This is everything that makes the FileMaker experience work. And it's just like what you see on Windows and what you'll see on Linux, Unix, whatever. You've got all these multiple files, and it includes dynamically linked libraries, shared objects, all kinds of different stuff. So however it's been created in whatever software. Resources is where you find a lot of things that are used by the application, and the application in this particular case, in FileMaker's case, is right there. This is what is actually launched, this 54 megabyte file. It then references and uses its frameworks, everything that makes this this solution work. So we've got a dynamically linked library here. You've got, this is for updating. You've got probably that's the Draco engine. It's 115. I don't know. It's really interesting to know and go through here. Now, one of the things that FileMaker 2024 did change, as you can see, we've got this, I didn't mean to double click that library and have it open the terminal, which it literally tried to run with Python or some other thing. But Xalen and Xerxes were the former XML processing. We get a new library, which we would be able to see, which we're going to see probably when we look in Kaleidoscope, that we get for FileMaker 2024, which is really pretty cool. So I'm going to leave it up to you to go through and look at all of these things. I am going to go back up a level, up 2 levels actually, and with Kaleidoscope open, I'm going to drag this copy of FileMaker here into Kaleidoscope, which will create a window, and then you can see over here, it's just waiting for another binary, another folder, where I can drag this. When I use the word binary, I'm using it very loosely here. Now we can see that there is my contents folder. When you double click this, it goes in. And the great thing about this particular diffing tool called Kaleidoscope is that it shows you what the differences are between files, but also folders. Typically in version control, when you're diffing, you can do it on the command line, or you can do it with a GUI tool like we have right here, and it will show you the differences between a file. In this case, depending on this plist, how it's actually, this is an XML version of the plist, and we can actually compare here. It's telling us just the version right there, the difference between 20.3.2, and it was changed to 20.1, and there is their internal number. So if you're interested, there is their machine build strings, so you can use that. Otherwise, over here on the side, you can see there's a sidebar, and I basically just go to the different points where the differences are. You drag to that area, and then you can see the differences. This is where you can discover things a little bit easier for yourself when Claris either doesn't include it in the documentation or what have you. Again, I'm a developer. If you're watching this, you're probably a developer or an aspiring developer or learning. These are the types of tools that you need to know how to use. Diffing and being able to go through an application and looking at the differences that are actually made with what is deployed. For example, one of the things that I'm not very fond of is Claris stopped providing downloadable copies of the help. It's now everybody's doing everything online, and the help used to be included in the actual application. So you basically just do this by selecting on whatever you want. You can see here's my original, which where I started, the main folder of contents. Then I go to a subfolder, and then you go into subfolders, and it just creates these tabs right up here, up at the top. So I love this tool. Now this, going to the Mac OS is going to be no big deal, because we already know that literally the binary, this FileMaker Pro and this FMX DB listener, they are literally going to be different because they are compiled different versions of this particular app of FileMaker from 2023 to 2024. The biggest thing that we're typically looking at is the resources, the differences here. We can take a look at the frameworks, and oftentimes that will tell us, it'll give us some information about things. We can see, once we sort of understand, we can see that their crypto library did not change, their wrapper framework, their engine, and the DB engine did not change, but this dynamic, the HTTP, the OmniOrb, which is basically a very key component to how FileMaker works, that did in fact change. And of course we can see that the Xalen, I'm blocking it here, let's see if I can get this to zoom, the Xalen libraries went away, Xerxes went away, and what we got in return, they put in XML2, but I don't see a dynamic library in here that they actually added. All I see is that they changed out some IO, some dynamics, changed out an SSL library, probably bringing SSL up to a more current version with regards to its security, what have you. That's just one of the things that I like to do. But like I said, The resources is the one area that I'm going to typically go into and take a look at. It's going to spin its wheels, and this is where you could see all the little bits and pieces that did or didn't change. So it looks like the blue here in this case means it did change the file itself. Green is new, red is delete, so I hope I didn't confuse that. But like here, for example, the action.tiff. If I double click this, it will attempt to show this. Actually, it's not. It's super small. Look at that. You'd have to get it so zoomed in order to actually see it. But the cool thing is, each new tab, you just close them out and go take a look at things. So if you want to see the difference that they made to this add-on.png, you can see that all they did is they changed the colors of the icons. So interesting. Add-on modules, did they change anything? Well, they didn't change anything except for the simple chart. So between FileMaker 2023 and 2022, if you want to know which add-ons they added or changed, none. They just basically changed the chart. Want to know the differences they made to the chart? Well, just go into that and you're going to be able to look at it. If you want to look at the XML, it looks like they made changes to the German, English, Spanish, and French XML versions. Also the Italian, Japanese, and Korean, and Netherlands. You would be able to go through this, but I'm not really interested. You're probably not interested as well. So enough for the add-ons. They didn't change anything there. Assets. This is something that's built into the application. The lproj is basically all of the base of what is built into the solution. This is going to have some... A lot of these nibs have to do with the dialogues that FileMaker shows in terms of how it presents things. So if you did want to go through this, we can see that, clearly they didn't change anything with some charts, but maybe there were some slight changes with the calc dialog or the calendar when it shows for the calendar field. So this is just an interesting way to sort of see where you can go investigate things that they might have changed. Now, it doesn't mean that there's a literal change within the UI. New IDs may have been assigned to objects that are on that particular area. But what I can do is I can use this and keep Kaleidoscope open at the same time that I go open the actual applications and go reference these particular things or these dialogues. A long time ago, there were some hacks that you could use. There's an old Mac tool called ResEdit. And ResEdit would let you modify these nib files. And as long as you didn't change the IDs themselves of the elements on the UI, you could go in and hack and replace a nib file, making the dialogue look and work more like the way that you want to work. So I remember making changes to the calculation dialog in order to make it a very much better layout than what Claris actually provides. I haven't done that for a long time. Don't know if that's still even possible. Probably is if I did enough digging. But for the most part, this is just what you can go through if you want to go take a look at things. A lot of these are going to change within the base project, of course, because internally that represents a lot of how FileMaker is working, and many times the compilation process adds new things. So one thing to know, by the way, this lproj is, it simply identifies what that application is going to use. Every language version is going to use the base, but then you're going to see that you're going to have dedicated versions for individual languages. So for example, DE is your German version, whereas you scroll down farther, you're going to get your EN, which is your English, versus your ES, which is, I'm guessing, España for Spanish, and so forth. We can see that we got an edit script PDF. That's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at that. That's new. Nothing much. Oh, that is, that right there is new in terms of, why is it showing over on that side? Don't know. But that is a new icon that we're going to see in the new version of 2024 with the Open Quickly feature. So again, if you're bored by this, you are probably not, you're just using FileMaker, maybe not a developer down in the weeds. App icons, that's going to be replaced because they did the green. Doc icons is going to be replaced because they did the green. FMID, that's pretty interesting. Take a look at that. That's just a small version with the green. There's your French right there. We'll go into the English one because I have English. Layout, this again is going to be icon that we'll see in Open Quickly. Open layout, that also is in the open quickly. Netherlands, a nib file within here. Profiler may be internal. Run script, sample data. Nothing pretty much else. Another language profile. Tick tokens. What is that? Again, this is ad hoc, but that's something that I am intrigued by. I will probably go do a search for this. So what you can end up doing is you can go search for things and find things that Claris actually doesn't tell you about because of this. So I will probably end up going to, let's see if I can, look at that. Open that up, tick tokens. Don't know what that is there, but very intriguing to see what that is. Again, we're just doing development discovery, so one of the things I will do is I will shoot a screenshot or do an on-screen capture. I am using, I forget what the tool is right there, but as I zoom in, you can see that I can basically just highlight that. I've copied that to the clipboard. I could go over to Safari. I could create a new Safari window and just do a search for that. And see, tick token is a fast BPE tokenizer for use with OpenAI model. Okay, so this confirms FileMaker 2024 does have the large language model support implemented in. In fact, that's probably a good jump if you are interested and intrigued about that. One of the things that you want to do whenever you're investigating a new version of FileMaker, and again, ad hoc video here, just me shooting the process I go through when I look at new things, is let's show my sidebar here, and we will select on FileMaker 20, and we'll go to the icons there as the installer actually shows when we see it. So one of the things that you can do is you can, FileMaker, it makes it very simple. It's got the icon, and then it's got its license agreements, but this folder that we have right here of extras, this extras folder many times has things that are somewhat interesting. So if we go to list view there, we can see that we've got the open source LLM. So if you want to start to investigate FileMaker's implementation, which they have a new script step in FileMaker 2024 of the large language model, you can see that we get this file right here ending in a .py. And if you don't know this, .py files are Python. And of course, there is a README and a requirements. So if you are a developer and you are interested in exploring the large language model features and doing it on-premise versus sending your data up to the cloud, guess what? You're more than likely going to have to use Python. I haven't done it myself. Even through ETS, I have not gotten in and looked at the large language model. You're going to find other videos online. Claris is going to be giving you those, but instantly I know that I'm going to be needing Python because of that PY. And if I take a look at the README by double-clicking and opening that, we're going to find out a bunch of information. Now, I have worked with some large language models. I have in particular worked with Stable Diffusion and learning how, doing local image manipulation. I can tell you this. When you're going to work with a language model, you're going to be downloading a file that is what they've trained a lot of the data on. You need the AI in order to use something, tokenizers, in order to actually, I don't know if tokenizers is the correct name, but basically the model is what you're going to pass your information into, and then that model is going to be able to chew up your data, gets whatever results, and then spit them back to you. Well, Hugging Face is a website, if you haven't learned about it or don't know about it, where a lot of these models are. There's Stable Diffusion models, but there's models for everything up on the Hugging Face website. So clearly, the way that FileMaker has implemented is they are using one of the open source models. You've got some PKI, which is going to be your key. All of the information is here. I have not read through it, but there is your your Python right there. Anytime you see this value of pip, that is the package installer for Python. So you're going to need to install JWT, which is probably JSON Web Token, I believe is what JWT stands for. It's not JavaScript Web Token. I don't forget. There's so many acronyms out there. And then the Python version of what you need to get in there. Anyway, I haven't read through this. Conda, yep, I've installed Conda before. If you are going to get into this, and you as a developer, you can see there's the instructions to install the sentence transformers, and where this is going to be the Python script that's probably going to run it against the model. If I'm in here, I don't know. I'd have to read through this. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm shooting this ad hoc and you don't want to see me go through a README. But in essence, you are going to need a version of Python installed on your machine. So I'll give you a little tip about that. I don't believe the Mac natively has Python installed. I'm going to open up my terminal. I don't need terminal. I want iTerm, which is one of the things that I use. We'll create a new term here. And that is off screen, and I will bring that on screen here, and we will type in Python and just type a -v, and you can see right here. So my Python isn't found because in this version of the Mac that I'm on, which in this particular case is, and I'd have to blur that out, but it is what am I on? I am on Ventura right there. There we go, Ventura. And we will see that we can basically Mac removed this in the OS is what I'm trying to see. But if I put in Python 3, oops, quit, get out of it. We can see that right there. I should have typed in Python 3v right there, which will just tell me the version. So usually in most binaries, -v is going to tell you what version of an app you're using. Not all. Many times lowercase v will actually mean increase the verbosity of debugging output. You have to always look at the documentation. Man, whatever. So if I wanted to see what the commands are, that right there, man, short for manual, is the holy grail of being able to find out any information about a binary that you're using. If I wanted to find out, it's going to jump into that. This then uses less. We can get out of that, etc. But you're going to need to install Python. In order to do that, if you're on a Macintosh, if you're on Windows, sorry, I do not do a whole lot of installations on Windows. We'll bring Safari back on screen. Homebrew is what you're going to want. Again, brew, it's brew, not homebrew. Just brew. Oh, yeah, give me. Leave page. My page has not been. Don't go to homebrew. That was funny. They are going to want to run a nasty JavaScript on my machine. It is not homebrew.sh. It is brew.sh. There we go, where we get to homebrew. So if you're on a Macintosh, this is what you're going to want to install. And it's got all the information here. And this is what I will trust, not that other website, Homebrew, where they decided to play some audio and try to get me to run a JavaScript. Even by clicking a close button. Do not click close buttons because you're not actually closing. You're clicking the trigger that they want you to run. And just in case you didn't know. Use your keyboard commands or close the window entirely because close buttons can be bad as well. So we've got our large language model. That is new. What else do we have in here? Tick tokens. So that led me down a path to learn about something that helps me understand how the large language model is going to be implemented and something that I need to learn about. These tick tokens, these types of things. So I'm not going to go through the rest of what I find here. You can do this on your own. It's what I do. It's what I used to do through the help when the help documentation was actually embedded into the application folder. It was a great way to discover what the new functions were, what the new script steps were. You would immediately be able to use this tool and see, oh, this is a new file, this is a new file, and just go right to the things that were new. I would then create a video about that, which were the videos that you may have watched in the past, whereas now we're getting just this little drip feed of new features. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to go into both applications, open them at the same time, open a solution, and just compare between the different features and take a look at those. All right, and here we are back at it. We are now going to go through the application itself. Now, many times I will leave the kaleidoscope open, which you can see I do have the icon. It's right there, and I would be able to switch to that in order to reference anything on my off-screen monitor coming into FileMaker to take a look at things that are new. Now, the way that I do this is clearly have the version that I'm working with. I have the version that is new, that was just released. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file or use a file. In this case, it's a starter file that you can find these at templates.fm. I happen to have created the theme that was used, and I'm always interested in changes that they make to the theme. Not because the theme is representative of what I would have released as a theme. It was designed specifically for these particular templates. Otherwise, the styles and the way that I named them and the type of styles I would have created would have been much more standardized and usable across a wide range of templates instead of these templates, which Claris ended up not releasing as it is. But you can see that I create a copy. We've got a 2023. It's basically just duplicate the file, and I am going to drag the 2023 onto the previous version, 2024 onto the current version. Now I'm keeping this window open, our caches, because I have not opened FileMaker at this point in time, but we can see how FileMaker will create a DB cache file for each of the different copies of FileMaker because we have the copies of FileMaker which have the same name in their own dedicated folder, which is a great way if you get down to the level of doing testing where we've got a file that you can use for testing. It's actually on screen right here, clarisconfig.json. I have it named .off, but if I took the off of this file, I would actually be able to put FileMaker into a debugging mode the same way that Claris does for testing some of the things. And it's also used for developers when they need to test network performance. If you want more information about that, go look for, go to FileMakerStandards.org, a website that I and others manage, and search for, I forget what the previous name of the file was, but I think it was replace on debug. I don't know. I have to find out now. I'm so interested. It was probably, we're going to sort here over by kind, and we're going to go, it's not a JSON file. Is that a JSON file? That's a Claris. There, it's called that right there. So that's what you're going to search for. Sorry about that. Release debug on is what it was named for FileMaker versions 19. And then at some point they went to a Claris config app, and that was probably with the version that we're working with right now. But let's head back to that applications folder where we can actually open these applications. So the easiest thing is just to drag one onto one and open that up, which I should have said, by the way. Let's go ahead and allow that and allow that. I should have done this first. What I like to do is I like to see if Claris does anything new with their startup. Now, the startup is really FileMaker does not take advantage of this at all. I'm going to quit FileMaker for right now. It's already created that. One of the things that I do is I will go to the preferences, which I have a link for here, and we can see that FileMaker has long used a preference file. When FileMaker was two different applications, FileMaker Advanced versus FileMaker Pro, it kept two different versions of a preferences file, and you could keep these in different locations, but for the most part, it's in the OS level of the preferences. So typically what I will do is I will take this and copy it to my documents folder, which it probably gave me a prompt somewhere. There we go. Yep, I got a prompt that says it's an older item. Do I want to keep or replace it? In this case, I'm going to say keep both. And it will copy it over there. I'll go back to that preferences folder, and then what I'm going to do is it took it out, so it got rid of it. So FileMaker literally has no preferences now, and at this point, I can launch this and get the experience as if I was a brand new user. Now I can do that by opening the previous version that I was working with or the brand new version just to see if anything has changed. Let's go ahead and do that in that order. I'll open up the new version. I'll go ahead and allow it. We're going to get FileMaker software license. I accept the terms. I've already licensed this version using my license that you have when you download your copy of FileMaker. and it looks like everything's going to open up. So at this point in time, we go to the into this. We can see right there, we've got the version, we've got the licensee, my license, which is fortunately obscured. I'm going to put this one off to this side, and then this version I am going to drag over here, and same thing's going to open. I'm not going to get the license prompt. So Claris didn't do anything new there in regards to that, although one of the things I could have done is, rather than dragging a file onto the application, I could have just opened the application. So if you want to see anything that is new with the application, let's go ahead and go through that process. Let's quit that FileMaker. So we'll use this. And if you don't know, this is a great way. In the Finder, you can hover over any icons. As I do the mouse over these icons, I can literally hit Command Q while I'm over FileMaker right here, and it will quit that application. So if I have multiple copies of FileMaker open, that's how I will close them out. Let's go back to our preferences, get rid of our preferences right there, our FM Pro 12. Got rid of that. Throw that in the trash, and now let's just open FileMaker Pro brand new, the 2024, and see if anything is happens here. All right, so it's opening up. Looks like it is retaining some. This may be from the cache or from the preferences, because clearly it retained some pointers to the files that I had opened, both the 2023 and the 2024. Now, what happens with FileMaker currently, it is sharing this preference file, everything that's in this file, which, if you don't know, by the way, and there's a nice tool that I use, we'll take a look at this open with and look at my default. This app, I love this one, plist Editor, allows me to look at all of the preferences for this particular application, FileMaker in this case. And you can see that FileMaker keeps all of its keyboard shortcuts or shortcuts that you assign in the operating system to FileMaker, dialog locations, all kinds of things. Although, unfortunately, some of the dialog locations, FileMaker chooses to randomly put them wherever they should appear on screen, like renaming a style, what have you. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff with FileMaker that they could spend some time on, some quality of life improvements in the IDE, but that is how that works. So nothing new came up with the new version in terms of the splash screen or in terms of what they give you when you go to this Create New, this window. This is the same thing as it was before, all of the same, what do you call these, 1990 icons. They're not taking the time to update these, unfortunately. Most of the time, we're creating blank as a new developer, or we're literally opening a file. I keep saying literally for some reason, but that is there's nothing new here in terms of when FileMaker is opened. So with that, this is the 2024 version. We'll open that file in this version, and we'll compare them. I'll put that one off to the side so that I know that that's the 2024, and then with the 2023, I'll just open the other application where there I can look at the differences. So when I'm clicking between the windows, and the resolution of my monitor has to be small enough so that I can see these both on screen. So in FileMaker 2024, you're going to get all kinds of other videos that are going to go through their features and what they like about the features. There's not a whole lot in terms of the developer experience here. The big ones are the large language model. For us as developers, the big one for me is going to be the open quickly, the JSON array manipulation, and then the data API, being able to use that to write. So let's go through those. What was the first one I said? So the open quickly. When you go into layout mode here in FileMaker, and it was only in layout mode, you had this, let's see if it shows the menu. Nope, it was only in layout mode. So, and let's see, is it over here in layout mode? No, it is now in any mode, which is absolutely cool. So this is, if you didn't use this is the same thing as this quick launcher, this launch bar that I'm opening up, but it's in FileMaker. So previously you had to be in layout mode, and then you would use Command Option K. And Command Option K, oh, that is, I wonder if that's a preference now. If that's in the preference file, because I am in FileMaker, the previous version. Nope, I'm in 21. How am I in? How did that open in 21? Even though are both of the apps nope? Nope, they are not open. Okay, FileMaker, will you please open? Yes, that's the right one. There's my license again. Okay, I'm pretty sure I had dragged that file onto that copy of FileMaker. Again, always need to double check, and you do that by going to your to the file that you're in, or to the about, so that you know that the 2024 is the version 21. Again, without different icons, it's very easy to get these. But let's see if that opened quickly. See, it did not. So I just used Command Option K here in browse mode in the previous version of FileMaker, and I was pretty sure I was right. You would go into layout mode, and if I'd use Command Option K, it brings up the open quickly. Now, the open quickly really only dealt with layouts. So if I was to type in a layout, which I'd need to know a layout name, I need to dismiss that with the escape key. Let's look at my layouts. So I have some of my layouts. Obviously, I would be familiar with my solution. We've got a lot of things named contacts. So let's use the open quickly with that. So this is a development. If you're not used to doing this in FileMaker, this open quickly was very nice for moving through layouts. You would open quickly and you could just type contacts. And if you have used words intelligently, such that, like the word phone, if you've limited the use of the word phone, you would be able to type in phone and pretty much go right quickly to the item that you want. Now, one of the things that I do, because I've used Vim for many, many years, and I love Vim, I use a particular application called Carabiner Elements, which is right there on screen. That is something that extends or gives me the ability on the Mac here to assign keyboard combinations to whatever I want. So with Open Quickly, I would be able to put in, say, for example, phone, and I use my Vim key bindings. I'm hitting the letter J and K right now in order to move up and down this list really quickly, and it's right there on my home row. Otherwise, what I have to do is I have to use the arrow key, which requires me to move my hand off the keyboard, whereas I get to stay right here, and it becomes very quick to simply select all, type in contacts. I want to go to the card new, and now I want to switch to my phone layout. I'm going to edit that. And so if you get used to doing this, dev contacts, I want to go to one of my dev layouts. I'm going to go to dev organizations. Moving through your layouts, as opposed to bringing up the manage layouts and then saying, oh, what was it? Phone right here, especially once you've got a super large list, can take a lot of time. But here we can see that I can open a separate window right here. And again, just going into layout mode and Command Option K, I would be able to bring that up and look for whatever layout I wanted. So we'll go to phone. Now, notice we have only this little fuzzy icon of layouts. So now let's go take a look at what we got in FileMaker 2024. And the reason I'm taking the time to describe these features, and I know that some of you out there are not using them. Maybe you're an old school FileMaker and you have not used some of these new things that FileMaker puts in. Let's go to the dashboard right there so that we're on the same layout. See how quick it is to get from one place to the other? Well, in FileMaker 2024, what they did is we can access this now. They did a remapping. The key is now not Command Option H. In fact, if I hit that right now, which I just did, nothing happens. If I go into layout mode and I hit Command Option H, what we're going to get is a toggling of the fields palette right here. Now, there are times that I use the fields palette, but not super often, because many times if you're starting a new layout and you know that there are specific fields you want, it's very easy to come in here and do your command selection and say, these are the fields that I want. You also can have control down here in the bottom where you can control the labels and say, I want this style of label versus this. Of course, making that selection does a deselection on all of my fields, but in essence, I would be able to select this first, any of my settings down here, and then drag them in. But what we get now, instead of that Option K for the panel right there, is just a standard Command K or Control K. And it works not just in layout mode, but it also works in browse mode. But this is going to be a little bit of a problem because FileMaker, the app, Claris, the developers, are giving you a literal fruit salad of everything that's within the solution. So if I start to type contacts here, I'm getting my scripts, my layouts, my anything with the word. So the filtering, you're going to have to cycle through more stuff because there's no real way to say, I want to see only my layouts or only my scripts. It's basically, here's everything in your whole solution, which can be convenient if it's a small solution, but once the solution gets large, that's not going to be very viable. It's nice that they have this here, but this is yet another reason or another thing that leads you down this path that your naming conventions within your solution has to get so specific and granular that you make it easier on yourself in order to find things. So in this case, fortunately, they have something where you put in card, and I'm getting all those different cards. But you can see that I can't really jump down to the scripts. I have to now mouse to scroll down to this or find something else. So if you are one of the developers and you have implemented the Open Quickly feature and you're working over at Claris, here is my suggestion. Give some type of user ability to limit this within the keyboard. Say, for example, L:, and then being able to type contacts, and that will give me just my layouts. And make that something that can be controlled. You can do just like you did with the default fields. Make it a file that we can use as developers and put somewhere where we specify whatever the prefix is. So rather than typing in CON and giving me all scripts with contacts, all layouts with contacts, all everything else with contacts, give me a way to limit to specific areas of the IDE. Now, another thing that's really cool, and I have not used it here, is on a script, I believe this will open this script, which opens up the scripting workspace. Conveniently, it doesn't open it in a new window, where right here, if we select on a new window, this gives me a window which is very similar to when I'm working in the debugger, and I double-click on the name of the script to open up that script if it's not already open in the scripting workspace. In other words, FileMaker has to keep track of the fact that where is a script open. If it's already open in the script workspace, I probably need to shift to that. Otherwise, I can open it in a new window. And fortunately, that's what that does. But when we are looking at that open quickly, what's really nice about that is if we do have a script, there's an exit script. I don't know what the keyboard shortcut is, but I believe you can execute or run this script. So what's nice about that is if you don't happen to be in the scripting workspace while you're working in FileMaker 2024 here, you can bring up that open quickly, type in the name of your script, whatever the script is. Let's put in view organization and then run that. Let's see if I do the option key with this. Aha, look at there. What a good guess. Option key means run. What does it mean with the layout? A new window. That's pretty cool. That right there. You notice that when I have the option key, so that's one thing I didn't even know because I haven't tested it a whole lot. So what's going to happen is I hold down the option key, I hit return on that, and it's going to open a new window with that particular item. I love learning these things and doing this ad hoc type of stuff. As I discover it, you get to know about it as well. Always remember in the Macintosh, and I don't know how it translates to Windows, but I always tell myself this phrase: you always have the option to do something else. And amazingly, when you hold down the option key, whether you're on a menu, let's see, there's one right there. So we can see right there, select all changes to select aim, select same. If you use that option key, you see things that you didn't see before. So we type in, and there's, I want a new, well, that didn't work. I do have to use the arrow key on this, but that's pretty cool, that ability to bring up that new thing. So try out the Open Quickly in 2024. That's going to be a nice feature. I just spent a bunch of time on that, but hopefully you learned some new things. Let's jump on to the next feature. So you find yourself asking the question, where should you host your FileMaker solution? Well, one of those dots right there. That's what I would pick. Now, they didn't come to me. I went to them, and I trust fmcloud.fm with all of my data. They are using the latest tech. In fact, did you know Claris is actually, in some instances, releasing features first and only for Linux? What does fmcloud.fm use? They use Linux. On top of that, they use containerization. And if you've not heard about containerization, then you will be. It's one of the best ways to host your FileMaker solution. I highly suggest that you check out fmcloud.fm. So after going through the diffing of the contents of the application, one of the things that I do, and I can't go through the whole application, we saw all of those nibs that were actually modified, which are many times the dialogues that are in FileMaker. I just want to show you the process that I go through with both copies of the solution, a solution open. I can just go into the different areas of FileMaker. So a good place to start is always the preferences. So I go into the 2023, and then I go over to the 2024, and I just open up the preferences side by side. You can see that that preference is actually opened on top of the other ones, because what was saved is when I was in the 2023 over here, FileMaker saved the dialog location settings, the top left and everything, and it opened it when I went over to 2024 over here, opened it up directly on top of the other one. Just an interesting thing to know since it's using the same preference file. But yet, in the preferences file, it does separate some things out. So here we can see that they did a dialogue change. They basically just tightened things up, and I believe everything looks pretty much the same. I just literally go through and look at all of the options, and I'll do a calculation dialog, and go through and just sort of see where there's any tweaks that they made. In this particular case, it looks like they just tightened everything up. There aren't any new features in here that I can see. You've got the tunneling that was added in the more recent 23 release and so forth. Nothing new here, but this is the process that I go through in order to find out differences. You simply just cycle through, see if there's any new checkboxes. It really doesn't take a whole lot of time, but it's a great downtime to go explore a new release when you're working on when you don't want to work on that solution that you're not very fond of working on. You just take the time to see what's new. All right, then the next feature it's big. I mean, as much as that is cool, the open quickly for being able to move around my solution, running scripts, opening new windows, etc. This one is what you're going to experience or going to get the most bang for your buck. Hopefully at this stage of your FileMaker development, you have bought into JSON. It really is the only way you should be passing multiple parameters within your scripts, and in many cases, how you should be storing your data in some of your fields. Especially if you're holding a lot of data that's structured, JSON is the structure that you can use, and you don't have to index that field. There's all kinds of benefits. So heading up to our favorite tool, the watch variables, we can take a look at the new features that we get. I believe there is a new function, which we're going to see here in FileMaker 24. We start to type in JSON, and we are going to have, we had delete elements, we had format, we had get element type, which was recently added, which is helpful for determining the type without having to evaluate the full JSON. List keys, list values we had, but we did not have make array. That is a new function in FileMaker 24, but also there is a new feature that we're going to see in the use of JSON, where we have these little things right here. We have a plus, which is going to be a bracketed, that's going to be something that you supply to the function. And then we also have the colon. Now, this is going to be, I forget what it is. It's either a pop or a push. Pop it off the top, push it onto the bottom. I think that's how it goes with regards to the stack. I always get them confused, but I know that in essence, you're getting something in and something off and something out. First, let's take a look at make array. So it's going to take a list of values. So let's go ahead and make an array. I'm going to do this all the way, by the way, in a let variable, because it allows me to, so I'll use my expansion right there. I'll call this an array. I'm going to type in JSON make array. Why didn't they just call it JSON array? don't know. List of values. So we can give it a list with the FileMaker list function, or if you want to be a purist, let's just go for a string and put in like X, return Y, and Z. Now, you get to specify whatever you want for a separator that delimits this. In this particular case, I've got the pilcrow, or what's a character 13 internal to FileMaker. If you don't know this, a long time ago, FileMaker made a change where if it's only a single pilcrow, FileMaker will not complain. If it's multiple, then you have to use the quotes. So I could just put right here a pilcrow, and then you get to specify all of the JSON, all of the types. So this is going to be a JSON string right there. We're going to take my semicolon off, and then we're going to return the array, and we're going to shove this up so that we can see, and we get a JSON array created. Now, if I did have, like I was just explaining, let's say that the data that I got for some reason had double pilcrows, you can see that by using a delimiter of a single pilcrow, it's actually inserting null items or empty strings in between those. So if I wanted to, again, use 2 pilcrows as my delimiter, I would now have to put in, and I get just my straight values, my X, my Y, and my Z. And hopefully that example right there shows you that your delimiter can truly be anything. Whatever matches here within the list that you provide, that's what's going to delimit or create that array. Now, this is going to be infinitely highly usable, because within FileMaker, we're constantly doing this as a developer. And because we can just put in that simple pilcrow, which is the default, which it would have been nice maybe if they did the default as the pilcrow. I don't know what the limitations would be there, but this list is very much a very common way to do things within our FileMaker coding and get those 3 values right there. So when it comes to those new bracket items that I was talking about, that's where you get to add something on using the shorthand notation, or take something off. So in order to do that, we can take a look at this by using one of the functions that would let us do that, which would be JSON set element right there. Now, what we're going to reference is our array, and for our key or our index path right here. So the way that you read this is you need to specify your key, which is if it's an object, or your index, which in this case is if it's an array, or your path, which is going to be more or less like your key, but includes the dot, the bullet. So in this particular case, I could specify my index that, I wanted to set element 0. But in this case, I don't want to set a new, well, let's get our value in here. Let's add A, and it's also going to be a JSON string right there. We can see that I've swapped out that value of 1. But if I wanted to simply just add this on, what I can do is I put the plus here. Notice that the A gets added on. So this little shorthand right here is simply going to push this onto the back. So what we've got, and I'm going to add these, this is probably just more for myself because I always get confused. That's going to be the push, where the other thing is going to be my pop. So let's play with that one. And there it is. Do you pop off of the end of array? I guess you do. But you can see what happened as a result of so this one, you can see my array grew. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and it pushes the A onto, well, let's change this to 4 right here. So it makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I put this one is actually going to take the 3 off and replace it with the 4 right there. So with these, we're going to be able to do a lot more manipulation of our arrays, which is super common because it's just like a FileMaker loop. You're iterating through a bunch of things. When you're dealing with your data and you've pulled that data, go ahead, Google Updater. You've gotten the data, you're many times getting it as an array, which leads us into the third item that I consider to be one of the biggest of all FileMaker features. I mean, the open quickly, huge. These array functions, huge, especially on a day-to-day basis when we're doing things as a developer. But this next one, it is modern FileMaker development. Let's take a look. All right, and this is the big number 3. There are other items that they have added. You're going to find blog posts, videos, all kinds of stuff. People talking about Let's Encrypt. That deals with server. It doesn't impact me on a day-to-day basis. Yes, it's nice. DNS for SSL certificates. There's a bunch of different things, but these to me are the things that you're going to be able to use or impact. They will impact you on a daily development basis. So in the scripting workspace, let's just go ahead and let's promote iSolutions here. We'll work in this particular script. They made this file, so that's really cool. I am going to just comment those out, and we can take a look at the step that is the big one. It's not new. It's execute data API right there highlighted on screen. Now, there is nothing new that we're going to see here other than the fact that this is now bidirectional. Bidirectional meaning I've got my ability to write data, not just read data. It used to be that this particular step would allow me to specify a layout and then just get data that I want in a JSON format. So if you think about this, what we just took a look at with the JSON functions, if I have a layout in my solution, when I can control what fields are on that layout, and I can say, give me the data based on this query from this layout using those fields back in a JSON format, that is fabulous. Now, can you actually write data back into that based on my modifications? And that's what now works. And that's what's absolutely awesome. So our request that we're able to make, which unfortunately, if you are not familiar, if you're not comfortable doing JSON, you're going to have to get comfortable doing JSON. Second, if you're not comfortable looking up documentation, you're going to have to get comfortable looking up documentation. Because once you get used to using this one step, execute data API, this is going to become a de facto way of making your solution more performant in many, many different ways. That is because if we take a look at the graph, and I'm explaining this for those of you that aren't taking the time to dive into the new features, and maybe if you have older clients that are on older versions, and you need to give them a reason, many times speed, how well it performs, how secure it is. By the way, there's a lot of security that's gone on. There's some really big bugs that you should update your copy of FileMaker to 19.6 and higher, and definitely 20 and higher, because let's just say you wouldn't want just anybody to be able to get into your files, if that was possible. But what we have here is with the ability to execute the data API, I can have a layout based on this table occurrence, and I can say, give me some data, and this particular table occurrence, because of context, can see the data that's in these tables, and it can combine those data into the JSON that I get back. But what I can't do when I don't have write is if I have we'll undo that, and let's just take a smaller structure of this by copying these. Which, by the way, perfectly great way to replicate parts of your solution when you're going to take a larger spider and pare things down into smaller table occurrence subgroups. You can simply say, oh yes, this is a structure I need, select as many table occurrences, and then just copy that. Just change up your rewire by simply double-clicking and changing it to what you need. We'll go ahead and get rid of those. So what's important about the execute data API is this concept. My user can be in this context right here, and I can run a script that will run execute data API and pull from this whole context right here. Say it's a completely different wiring and it does something else in terms of how the data is returned. These relationships are different than the relationships that are right here that I just copied this. So we're imagining right now. Not only can I read that data with execute data API, I can write that data, and I don't have to be in that context. In other words, I stay on the layout on this table occurrence, and I just use one script step, execute data API, in order to write to this particular context. And that's huge because in FileMaker, a lot of what you do ends up being jumping to different places because of context. I'm here and I'm on a layout. Oh, but I need to go make a modification. Well, let's go to this layout, go use all of my set fields, and then let's come back. And the problem with that is all of your tabs, if you're using tabs, all of your panels reset. You have to create a technique in order to reset them to what they were before you left the layout, and all kinds of different stuff. You don't even need to worry about that now. You take the time, you learn this particular function of execute data API, you go read the documentation, and you're now able to write your data in to make changes. On top of that, the native format for a web viewer is JSON. And a lot of things, when you go over to the add-ons tab, when FileMaker added this calendar heat map and whatever other add-on there is, they are implemented because of web viewers. Web viewers are going to be a standard or a default for how you display a lot of data because web viewers are detached from FileMaker's infrastructure or FileMaker's logic. And FileMaker's logic is very chatty. It has 50 fields. It's going to give you all data from all 50 fields. A web viewer is detached. You ask server for some data using execute data API as a perform script on server. It hands you back some JSON. You pass that JSON into the web viewer and they can work with that data. You can use data tables or whatever you want to use. All of these methods and techniques are what make FileMaker a more and more viable solution because you can make it perform better and better than what it does underneath the hood. So, since this is a long video and I need to wrap this up, and I just like to give you all kinds of insight and techniques into how FileMaker works, is that you need to become accustomed to these new ways of doing things. FileMaker is very chatty, and underneath the hood, its lineage and its history lends itself to a very easy to use environment on the LAN. If you've got fiber and everybody's connected and you're all on the same network, no problem. If you're using the internet and you're on the WAN, FileMaker and the way that you develop your solutions cannot be the way that you've developed solutions in the past. And that's all I have to say about this new version. Other than the large language model, which they do have a script step for that. I don't know if you put in, let's see if you put in LLM language, what is it? AI. It's probably AI right there. So we've got configure AI account. We've got set AI call logging. These two steps, or all of the AI steps, I'm going to leave that. That is a completely different video talking about wiring these up, setting up your own large language model, pulling down something from Hugging Face, creating your own large language model by doing your own training, way beyond the scope. But the cool thing here is they are implementing features that if you've not used ChatGPT, Claude, if you're doing images, if you use Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, any of those things, go dip your foot in the pool. Just go download the ChatGPT mobile app and just do the speaking thing. I don't know, choose to translate whatever you want into a different language. It's instantaneous and it's amazing. They're increasing the capabilities. The number of tokens that they can support are getting larger and larger and larger. Literally writing software. The other day, if you're still watching this video at this point in time, for however long it is, the other day I knew that I wanted to create a Python script for a process that I was writing for my FileMaker solution. In the past, my normal process would be to go Stack Overflow, see if anybody's posted anything or any code that gets me some starter code if it's something that I haven't worked with, a library, what have you. This time around, I went and used ChatGPT. They had released the 4.0 at that particular time. I described the type of script that I wanted for a Python script, and I kid you not, what would have taken me 4 hours or more just to research to start to write, it literally threw the whole script there. You have to know enough about the programming and the environment, but if you do, it throws the boilerplate code that's right there for you to work. I'm not kidding here. If you're still watching this video and you are a FileMaker developer and you have not taken the time to investigate how AI is going to impact you, there are going to be developers that go faster, both in learning and in terms of production, using AI tools. Go check out cursor.sh, CodeBuddy. There's all kinds of other tools that you can put directly into IDEs like VS Code, where you describe the code that you want, and then the code literally comes up in the editor. Is that going to happen in FileMaker? I don't know that it's too likely, but I can tell you this. You can create a custom GPT in the paid version of ChatGPT, feed it and give it a template of the FileMaker XML snippet, and you can literally tell it, I need a button bar. After you provide enough training and instruction for the custom GPT, you can say, I need a button bar that has 4 segments. It's going to read customers, clients, and whatever else, and it's going to attach to these 4 scripts. Faster than I snapped, that snippet will show up in ChatGPT. You copy it and you simply paste it into FileMaker. It's astonishing. It's literally astonishing what you're going to be able to do in terms of composing a solution. Will AI be able to create a FileMaker solution? No, but the speed at which you can create a solution is going to be vastly improved. And so I'm just going to leave you with that. It's cool that we've got the AI features, where they take this and how they add it in. We've got the searching that's going to be implemented, your own custom large language models. Whether it gets integrated into the IDE, we'll see. But it's cool stuff. It's really cool stuff that's happening in FileMaker. So much luck to you, and until next time, happy FileMaking.
We hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial, and we'd like to say thank you for your subscription and your support. If you're not already a subscriber, head on over to www.filemakermagazine.com/subscribe for more information about the benefits of joining.